Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's news review. And we're going to be going through a few things today. I actually had to minimize some of the stories that we're going to be covering today because there are so many of them that have relevance. There's a lot that's going on in our world right now, and let me get myself back in the middle there. And it's really almost overwhelming, the number of what could be relevant stories. So somebody give me a 5 by 5 that I know you can hear me all okay. And I'm very grateful for every single one of you, whether you listen to this as we do it, which you're welcome to do that. We do this at the same time every week. This has now become our regular weekly meeting time for news review. And you're welcome to send me up what you believe are relevant stories. Our friend Octavia Martinez does that on a regular basis. And so you're all welcome to share with me what you believe are relevant stories that may in fact make the review. So feel free to send them up to my email. I get them every week from Octavia, and she had a good few of them actually. So we got a lot to cover. So I just want to encourage you and also to keep your eyes open to what's really happening. I hope that these weekly reviews help you do that. And so, whether you're watching with us live right now or catching us on a replay, I just want to thank you for taking the time to tune in. It really blesses our heart to be able to encourage any of you wherever you are. And we certainly want to encourage you to continue to believe the words of our Messiah, that you would not be afraid. 365 times the admonition is given in the scripture to not be afraid. And so it is something that we are supposed to have with us every single day, one for every day of the year. And so that's kind of nice to think of it that way. And shalom to my sister in Jerusalem. We had a nice chat today, caught up a little bit on world events from a different perspective, and it's always entertaining to interact with all of you. You are such a blessing to us here, and very thankful for every one of you. I know that there's a lot that we talk about as a house. We don't pull our punches, and we have offended people, and we don't mean to, because we are looking at a lot of things that we were lied to about, and there are so many different scams and cons and things that have been pulled on us, that we have to have a critical eye for everything. And that offends because what people have translated into faith means that they believe anything that comes out of certain places. And that's not what faith is. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of the living Elohim. So he must speak, and faith worketh by love. So don't apply that to things that don't qualify, right? So this is a very good admonition. So let's get to the news and start covering some of these things that are going on in our world. And it's giving people a chance to get in. If you want to share the link, please do. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not a subscriber, or if you've been unsubscribed for some reason. I know that the powers that be sometimes do things like that. And I want to also encourage all of you who are part of the remnant. You made it through. You're here today. Um, we all need like almost a consolation prize for the battle that you go through every year. Telling the truth is hard. We have to get blood off of our hands. There are people that get offended at that. And, I know it's tough for you. So I just want to encourage you. Thank you all for standing your ground. It's amazing to watch you from the sideline. Sometimes I jump in, sometimes I don't. If I think you're a bit of a younger member of the remnant, I might come in to help, and other your brothers will come in to help. But I want to tell you something. It's amazing to see the strength, the character that's being built as people speak the truth in love. And it's not easy, and I know that. So I just want to encourage you. Thank you so much for doing that, each and every one of you. First story that we're going to cover tonight, and that continues to dominate some of the back channel discussions. This is not going to be on your mainstream news. You are not hearing this from mainstream whatsoever, because they are basically, they're conning everybody, right? So they're they're making sure you don't even they're hoping no one even knows about this. Okay. Which is kind of a challenge. They're hoping that people don't pay attention to these things that are being dropped, these Twitter files. So unfortunately, there's just no way to stop it. And now finally, the mainstream media, so you can see this is Fox, finally starting to really talk about this because it's getting to the point where they just can't ignore it anymore. It is news. And so Twitter files expose government influence on suppressing um, those messages that contradict, as you can see there on the headline. Okay. So numerous actions and accounts that were posted. So this is one of the things that's been coming out. Latest reporting on documents referred to as the Twitter files reveal efforts from both Trump and Biden administration to suppress ideas on social media related. Now you notice how they threw in both the Trump and Biden administrations. Well, what we now know and we've been getting, if you've been paying attention to this story, is that it is most certainly one-sided. So to try to make it sound as if it is, left and right, it's not quite that. That's not quite accurate. It is extremely lopsided. The United States government pressured Twitter and other social media platforms to elevate certain content and suppress other content. So this is manipulation, of course, and this is essentially open propagandizing, and this is what the backlash is coming for, and I think appropriately so. Stories should be what they are. If you're telling the truth, you shouldn't need to step on the scale. You shouldn't need to do these kinds of things to make your point. If you're telling the truth and you really have a serious disease issue going on, you shouldn't need to play games in order to get the public on board. So the very fact that they were doing these things, which we all knew, okay, but now the world knows. Like, it's one thing that we knew. We always knew. The remnant are sharp. You're hard to fool. Okay. You guys are awake at a level that they don't know what to do with. You see, and yours are the minds they wish they could study. You have the minds that they can't figure out. How did you know this? How do you keep pulling things out of thin air and turn out to be right? How do you have the same ideas across continents? How is it that you're saying the same things into your computer microphones almost synchronized at the same time? You're over here in one part of the world, somebody else is in another part of the world, and they're listening to everything, and they've got to be freaking out as they hear the remnant basically saying some of the same things all over the earth. And I know this for a fact because I've checked with too many people, there's too many coincidences to mark it, to just chuck it off as, just sort of um, something crazy. And these are people that are not even connected with Remnant House. These are people that are not connected with New Kingdom, with anything that we're doing, don't even know we exist. They don't even, so much for a cult when we don't even connect. We don't even talk to each other. Okay. But that's what they'll say to you. They'll say, oh, you joined a cult or you're in a cult and it's nonsense. Listen, the biggest cult out there has got 1.6 billion people in it following some dude who calls himself the vicar. Okay. That's a cult. And your guys are waking up and getting things from the Ruach HaKodesh, that is telling you the truth. You're getting things from the spirit of truth. And then what happens to you all is you start to check. And this is what they can't figure out, how you're doing this, because you get keywords to go look, or things to go look for that they don't expect you to know. And unfortunately, all their secrets are coming out. So it's exciting to watch. It's really it's riveting. Um, and this is what we're seeing right now. Oh, speaking of which, I thank you for bringing that up, Brandy. I appreciate that. Brandy made a comment last week. I should have posted up. She said, this man is an expert at upsetting you so that you fact check. Guilty as charged. I will be annoying because I don't want blood on my hands. All right. But the paranormal ain't supernatural. So, you're seeing some paranormal activity. If you do a search on paranormal and do any homework there, you're going to find out that it is dramatically increased recently in the last few years, especially in the last year, dramatically. A lot of paranormal activity. We'll do some updates on that in the future. But I just want to tell you right now that is going to get worse because these spirits, the desperation level is reaching its zenith. So you're going to, before the end is finally over, it's going to be really wild on Earth, So stand by. Okay, but these Twitter files continue to expose and they continue to shed light in areas that I believe need to be shared. Now, there's still a lot of corruption we're dealing with in our world, and so despite the light, it's hard for them to figure out what to do. My sense in the Ruach right today, which was really interesting because I saw some natural confirmation, is that these guys don't even know who to surrender to. Some of them want to give in. They're like white flag, but they don't know who they're supposed to surrender to because their leadership is gone. The leadership on the other side is scattering. Is difficult to there's a lot of ad hoc activity that's going on out there. Now, getting back to the United States, this was a story that I wanted to point out very early in our broadcast this week. Let me put it up on the screen. Carrie Lake did lose her election lawsuit. Unfortunately, for those who were trying to cover up, this was really bad. This is going to go to appeal, and it will survive an appeal, I believe. If it doesn't, then there has to be an intervention because what was revealed in this court case was stunning. Okay, so the Maricopa County Superior Court judge rejected the Republican gubernatorial candidate Carrie Lake's lawsuit challenging the results of the 2022 general election. The judge declared Democrat Katie Hobbs as Arizona's governor-elect. And so basically, she lost her case. In dismissing Lake's case, Superior Court Judge Peter Thompson, which really surprised me that a Peter would do this, but I mean, not all Peters are the same. So there you have it. But Peter Thompson found no malicious intent nor misconduct by Maricopa County, even though 60 something percent of the election machines did not work on election day, but that's just coincidental. So essentially what they're saying is, just tough it out. You just lost, and that's going to be the end of that, and just get over it. Well, unfortunately for the corrupt, that day ain't. This is not that day. 1980s call want their corruption back. This is a new day and a lot more light shining, and so this is going to be very dangerous going forward. Here in Arizona is going to be a dangerous time because I can already tell you that there are a lot of angry people about this. So it is good that she is doing an appeal that will assuage some of that public anger and demands. And there's already an effort that will be put together for a recall of Katie Hobbs, which will be even more embarrassing. So this is far from over here in Arizona. This is going to be a battleground for a while. And so just continue to pray for Arizona. I believe that it is in the sort of public eye and the specter for a reason. So this is very interesting. And I do believe that, well, the rumors that I'm hearing. All right, so let me put up another story. Let me give you a couple other stories, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I'm catching, if you will. Brazil, Bolsonaro is talking about removing the Supreme Court. This is getting real, folks. Brazil's about to go real. And the Supreme Court is warning Bolsonaro against armed forces takeover of the country based on Article 142. And there's been much chatter and speculation on social media about Bolsonaro having already placed Brazil under armed forces tutelage, which he probably learned from another former president who found himself at the wrong end of the corruption program. So we need to keep an eye on Brazil, folks, and this is going to continue to happen. Take a look at this. Brazil's Indios storm the Supreme Court, all right, demanding a chief's release, and the left prepares a crackdown. So this was very common. This was nothing new for us. Those of you that are veterans of watching sort of South America and South American countries, that's where the term banana republic even came from. So we know a little something about the left crackdowns, except there's never been this level of light before, saints. And I've never seen people in the street like I see them here in Brazil. So this looks to me like it is concerted. It's a coordinated effort. And I believe that Brazil is going to lead the way along with, I believe Brazil is going to be a pivotal a place that we need to keep an eye on. If the light is allowed to go out, in other words, if corruption is allowed to rule the day, then you don't have, I mean, it's one thing if you come out and say, we're a dictatorial country, we're a dictatorship, and that's the way it runs. You want to be here, this is what it is. I mean, I think Saudi Arabia or some of the other countries, they don't hide their government structure, right? But if you've presented as a republic and the vote of the people governs the nation, so it's the consent of the governed. Well, then you have to actually ascertain the consent. You have to ascertain that. That has to be very important because otherwise it delegitimizes any authority that is being usurped. So any place where there's questions of severe nature, like Arizona, where there is authentic and documented now in a court case, absolute malfeasance, absolute, I mean, a 19-inch document that's being printed on a 20-inch printer just so that it misses. Oh, yeah, that was just accidental. It's nonsense, and nobody buys that. And so, saints, just understand that it's almost like they want a war, they want to fight. I don't know how this serves them, but that's what they're trying to have happen. So they've been trying to do this since Trayvon Martin. Remember that? Where the kid got killed in Florida. They've been trying to race war the United States and race war many countries for some time because chaos is their game. They love chaos. They love warfare. They love destruction. I mean, they worship death. They're a death cult. Come on, right? So, the powers that be, if you will, that are against us are formidable and they want destruction. They want death. They want people to give up and just accept that they have been taken over, right? And well, folks are just having a hard time with just letting that go. Now, getting back to those Twitter files, before you start thinking that this is the benevolence of some awesome guy, I just want you to be aware that we're not fooled as the remnant. We're awake. This is a psyop. The whole thing's a psyop. Okay? There's so many things going on at the same exact time that we're not fooled by that. And we're watching because we know that this information is coming out because it has to. Nothing can be hidden. Remember what the king said. All things will be revealed, including stuff like this. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? Yep. That's a mask. So someone has decided, there was a decision made that this information needed to come to the public. And this is an elaborate program going on, folks. This just goes to show you the level of commitment to deception that is out there in the world. The level of commitment to deception, to deceive. And, oh, what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive, right? And look at this. This is kind of interesting. The handshake of death. Let's call it the handshake of death. You're gone. You're gone. You're gone. You're gone. You're gone. You're gone. Ooh, that's not good. That's a bad sign. Anybody else paying attention to this? So I'm only sharing this kind of as a bit of a humor thing, but watch this. This is kind of funny. So Biden's taking no chances. He's taking no chances on the handshake. Oh my goodness. The world we live in. What a trip, huh? And so I just thought I'd share that as a little bit of humor. And, because this guy shakes people's hands. Next thing you know, they're gone. So attempts to prop up old Khazaria and set it apart from other nations so that they could have their homeland restored it's kind of iffy how it's going right now. So this is kind of interesting as we pay attention. And I'm glad you guys are along for this ride because it's kind of interesting some of the stuff we get to see if you're paying attention. And a lot of folks aren't paying attention, so it's good to slow things down a little bit before we get too far. And I want to switch to a yeah. Sharon says Biden is such a weirdo. I don't know, I think the whole thing is kind of weird. I think we have walked into a time period that they just don't know how to negotiate. And remember, the horn blew, so their power's not working. Their witchcraft, folks, doesn't work the way it used to. All right, they're one of the things that. Yeah, that was Musk. Just somebody asked who was that, and that was Musk on the mask, and or supposedly Musk. So we don't know who's playing who, but we're being played here. There's a reason why this is all coming out the way it is. So I think we're watching a psyop. Honestly, I think the whole thing is staged. That's truly what I believe, and I believe they're staging all these things and they're sort of moving this narrative forward. Both sides are going with. All right. And so remember that though the sons of Yasharel be as the sands of the seashore, only a remnant shall be saved. And so most are under the sway of the wicked one and don't even know that they're being manipulated. And so I think it's kind of fun to stop it all and go, really? Come on, we're not buying all this. But it is interesting to watch it unfold because I believe, regardless of what method they use and who they pay to go up there, they still have to reveal things. They still have to tell you what they're doing. Speaking of which, and they have to play by certain rules. Speaking of which, this is a narrative we continue to see. This narrative is concerning world cataclysmic events. Global heating will set the stage, look at this, for extreme weather everywhere in 2023. Now, I don't have to tell you guys who can control that there are certain things that can affect weather. I don't really need to educate you. My very good buddy Richie from Boston will be happy to explain to you. And I so love that guy, by the way. Just a massive shout out to Richie from Boston, who has faithfully been out there shouting from the top of the mountain for anyone that would hear that this is all manipulated stuff. Okay. So just a huge shout out to my buddy Richie from Boston, who is an awesome dude and has faithfully, he's like one of the only voices, if not, I will even say the only voice that, I mean, he single-handedly exposed things that then later on people picked it up and ran with it. In 2023, the relentless increase in global heating will continue, bringing ever more disruptive weather that is a signature calling card of accelerating climate breakdown. Okay, as if these guys know what is climate breakdown. Like they're saying it like, oh, we've been through this so many times and here it comes again. They don't know what they're talking about, but they just talk. According to the liars, oh, I'm sorry, NASA, which means deceive in Hebrew, 2022 was one of the hottest years ever recorded on Earth. This is extraordinary because a recurrent climate pattern across the tropical Pacific known as ENSO, weren't we supposed to be in a frozen tundra by now? Just saying. Okay, El Nino Southern Oscillation was in cool phase. During this phase called La Nina, the waters of equatorial Pacific are noticeably cooler than normal, which influences weather patterns around the world. One consequence of La Nina is that it helps keep a lid on global temperatures. This means that despite the recent widespread heat waves, wildfires, and droughts, we have actually been spared the worst. Oh, goodness. But here it comes. Yeah, exactly, Brandy. There it is. Never a straight answer from NASA. That is correct. And so this El Nino is coming or whatever, right? So what are they doing? Well, I always watch, again, I watch patterns. So whenever I see a pattern like this, where they're repeating a certain story or trying to get you to sort of buy into this, sort of narrative things that they're doing, they drop little seeds along the way so that you go, oh yeah, I heard about that, oh yeah, I heard about that, oh yeah, I heard about it. And then people spread it, right? You won't be able to find Richie from Boston on YouTube anymore. You got to go to either BitChute or Rumble. He got kicked off of YouTube. a while ago. He was one of the first ones kicked off of YouTube. So just an FYI for you there. So there's going to be more stories like this. You're going to see a lot more of them laying the foundation for there to be big problems in the earth, and big, things that some of which are natural disaster, are weather related, but then some of them are compounded, okay, by opportunistic forces that want to create circumstances where there is difficulty and problems. Let's take a quick look here. Um, the storm that we just saw, this storm, many people are questioning this storm, and I think reasonably so. This bomb cyclone update, at least 50 people dead with bodies found. Look at this, guys. This is really heartbreaking. Frozen in cars as record breaking monster storm batters the U.S. So at least 50 people are feared to have been killed as a huge winter storm, and it continues to pummel the United States. Thousands of Americans still remain without power, and drivers have been found dead in their cars after being left stranded on snow-covered highways and interstates. So look at this. A vehicle has been blanketed by snow and snowdrifts, leaving some even emergency vehicles are stuck. And temperatures then plunged to a dangerously cold minus 53 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, when the wind chill was taken into account on the run up to Xmas, according to the National Weather Service. At least 46 people in the U.S. are feared to have died, with 4 additional deaths reported in British Columbia. So this is very sad. This is very heartbreaking. At least we need to continue to pray for these victims, these people. Unfortunately, it is brutal, and this winter is just beginning. So we may see a lot more devastation, especially if there is weather manipulation going on. If that's true, if that's being done, then we should expect to see a lot more of that. And I also think that is limiting travel and limiting. Well, it's hard to protest if you've got snow all over. It's hard for a lot of things to happen. So, it slows everybody down. When there's 6 feet of snow on the ground, nobody's going anywhere. That's one way to chill everybody out. So that kind of works. Unfortunately, there's some other things going on at the same time. Now, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to again bring these up. I just move through these stories, but they all seem connected. So check this out, guys. And again, this is going back to our discussions about power vulnerability. And again, this is very, very difficult time, but look at this. Washington burglars take out 3 power substations on Christmas. As I said before, there's no way this is not somehow coordinated. Why in the world this is continuing to happen? Burglars in Tacoma, Washington vandalized 3 power stations on Christmas morning, leaving 14,000 customers without electricity, according to the police. So these are crimes, folks. These are not, the power went out or the transformer blew. No, this is criminal activity in some kind of attempt. It seems pretty coordinated to me to some degree. Randomly, made to look random, but is coordinated. So this is very suspicious. And, you can read more about these stories. This is stuff that's coming out right now. You can take a quick look and do a search for power substations. You do a search on how many of them. I think last week we discovered there were over 100 different occasions where power stations were attacked. And I personally was shocked to see that, because that's not accidental. I mean, that's not one here, one there. That is a lot of power stations that suddenly aren't working. And so this is very dangerous. And of course, in this cold, with these kinds of conditions, you're going to have a lot more people are going to die as a result of that. Oh, there goes my puppy. He must have saw a bad guy. Go get him. Go get him, Tiger. Okay. Maybe somebody will come over and grab him. And so these are things that, again, I think it's feeding into a narrative. I think they need to have extreme weather for some of their agenda. And if you're not sure if there's truth to that, well, Let's take a quick look. The UN Environment Program, COP15. Did you know that this was going on? The 20th of December that just passed. COP15 ends with landmark biodiversity agreement. So the United Nations Biodiversity Conference ended in Montreal, Canada on the 19th of this month with a landmark agreement to guide global action. Watch this. So they're going to guide global action on nature through 2030. Oh, what a shock. What a year to pick, right? Representatives from 188 governments have been gathered in Montreal for the past 2 weeks for the important summit. Chaired by China and hosted by Canada, COP15 resulted in the adoption of this Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework on the last day of negotiations, and they aim to address biodiversity loss, restore ecosystems, and protect indigenous rights. It always sounds good. They want to get power for a good reason, and then they use it for something else. So, all the noble purposes in the world have to be questioned because the reputation of those who are foisting it, unfortunately, are questionable. So it's not that we don't need to do this; we just need to do it with other people who haven't already either been proven to be corrupt or are part of a corrupt system. So it's not that these problems don't need to be arrested. I believe they do. I just believe that it should be under Mashiach and he should rule from Jerusalem. What do you guys think? Amen. So let's pray for our King to show up, because otherwise things are going to get very rough for the remnant. Remember, you are the only target. They're not after their own people. They already own them. They're after you. You're the ones they don't own. You're the minds they can't control. You're the ones they want to map your mind. They're like, how do you do that? I'm telling you, you're the ones that intrigue them with your supernatural powers and your abilities and your insight and your deep focus and your ability to disconnect. How did you know that there was a problem there? You turn your car. They've watched you all for so long, and they know who the remnant are. And I'm telling you, they can't figure out how you stay one step ahead of them. But see, those that walk by the Ruach, the natural man can't keep up. They don't know what you're going to do next. Kind of weird. Just saying, you're peculiar people. All right. So this is going to continue. This kind of situation is going to continue. The U.S. utilities impose blackouts, warnings over deep freeze, power grid strain. A number of U.S. utility companies are calling on customers to conserve electricity. Again, massively selling this narrative. And this is very dangerous when you're seeing this pattern. So Con Ed, which serves New York City metropolitan area, asks its 1.1 million natural gas and 3.5 million electric and other customers to conserve power. And so, of course, they're pushing this, and all they needed was some bad weather to talk about it, and that gives them cover. So now if the power goes out, we told you guys to conserve, and gosh, we tried our best, right? So this is why we look at these things, because we're seeing what they're doing. We're seeing the macro picture a little bit differently than we may have seen it before. And again, just another story on Politico. Physical attacks on power grids surged to new peak. Listen to this, because this just came out. I don't know the date on this. This was just today, actually. People are shooting, sabotaging, and vandalizing electrical equipment in the U.S. at a pace unseen in at least a decade, amid signs that domestic extremists you gotta love the way they write these stories, man. So guess who they're coming for now with this one? Look at this. Domestic extremists. Yeah, if you're a burglar trying to steal power companies, I'd say you're extremist. You got a death wish. The U.S. power grid is suffering a decade-high surge in attacks as extremists, vandals, and cyber criminals increasingly take aim at the nation's critical infrastructure. Physical and computerized assaults on the equipment that delivers electricity are at the highest level since at least 2012, including 101. This is what, remember, I was just talking about this. So this is over 100. Look at this, 101 reported this year through the end of August. And there's been more now. We just read about more. So that number's going up, according to federal records examined by Politico. The previous peak was 97 incidents recorded for all of 2021. So we had, oh, wow, I didn't even know that. So look at that. There was almost 100 incidents in 2021. I, that's not funny. Okay, this is not even funny. And look at this again, and they're restating the Washington State story that 14,000 customers were put in the dark. And they say, well, it's unknown if there are any motives or if this was a coordinated attack on the power systems. Oh, give me a break. I think we can all see that what is being communicated is our vulnerability. And I don't know anything more demasculating, especially for a man. I can only speak for myself. When the power goes out and that feeling of helplessness, that's hard to deal with. Okay, you want options. You're like, no, 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 I can't accept this fate. And they have you over a barrel, right? This is why we had to go to work to find solutions, and we did. And I'm very grateful for our team here for the New Kingdom Energy project that we've put together, and super excited about the results that we're seeing. And folks, we need to continue to press in these areas. We need more and more innovation. What's going to happen when they say you have to cross this line? Okay, you know what line I'm talking about. In order to pay your power company, all they got to do is switch the currency. Yeah. And believe me, there's a lot of pressure to do that because markets are flat, but $1 trillion losses were experienced by five particular tech companies. Almost half of the losses were five companies. Look at the five companies: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, and Tesla. Okay, so there's a lot of motivation in the market to find solutions to what looks to be a very difficult time ahead. And you know how these guys love their money, man. I mean, they love money, so they worship that stuff. So they're going to want to do something to fix this. And there's more indications of economic pressure to do something different. Take a look at this real quick. Home sales. Did you guys know this? I think we covered this a little bit, but I didn't know it jumped. It slumped 35%. That's a big number in November. Home sales slumped 35% in November, the biggest decline on record. Yeah, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big decline. Okay. You know, that there probably was a reason why we didn't know, because they didn't really want to talk about that. They don't really want to talk about how their system is going kind of haywire. Surge in mortgage rates early in November caused sales and prices to slow, but there are early signs. So they backed off some of these percentages. They realized that the market could not handle mortgage rates that were that high. So they're starting to come back. Mortgage rates reverse course in late November, dropping below 6.5%. So they had gone as high as 7.08, which got a lot of people right out of the market. So they had to bring it back down. And remember that a mortgage is nothing but a covenant with death. And that's what mortgage means. So, be careful with that. But nevertheless, it is the indicator that, what's going on, if you will, out there. And when people are not confident about buying a house, that's a very strong indicator. And there are those that believe that what is coming as a market correction in the real estate area is bigger than 2008. I can't say for sure what that is, but I believe that is, in fact, I think there's some accuracy to that. A couple of things I wanted to share before I go on any further. I forgot to mention this. There are some rumors out that if the Supreme Court, now remember last week we talked again about that Supreme Court case, and that is something that is very, very interesting to watch. As I said to you all, they're in a pickle because if they rule, well, they send the entire world basically reeling, because that would be biblical, epic, right? But if they don't, then they prove their corruptness, like this judge in Arizona. Now people are calling him a deep state judge. See, it was one or the other. You had to, and they're more afraid of the left than the right. They just are. The left do crazy things that the right doesn't do. So that's why things tend to fall that way, because they're under threat. But this has now become very, very serious. So the rumors that I'm hearing now, and again, unconfirmed, can't say for sure. We're going to keep an eye on this. But if the Supreme Court fails to rule against the fake regime that's running the corporation in the month to come, in this month that's coming in, then kinetic action apparently is been suggested. And so this is coming from CIA sources. Um, we'll see. Will there be kinetic um, action? Will there be some things that are happening? We'll see. I think there's going to be a number of people that are going to unfortunately not do well going forward. And I think the Supreme Court um, has a very difficult road in front of it. If it decides to um, rule in favor of this case, then it's going to have enemies on one side. And if it doesn't, it has enemies on another side. At some point, righteousness has to rule, right? So this has to come to an end at some point. And I do believe that it is very soon. We're going to see some kind of movement that's almost cataclysmic. So I expect there to be some crazy that comes out of some of these things that are going on, Saints. So just be prepared. Understand that there's a lot of forces that are trying to throw the world into chaos for their reasons, and then there's forces that are trying to correct corruption for their reasons. Well, they may be coming at it from a different perspective, but the net result will be the same. Okay, for the persons caught in the crossfire, it's going to be the same. So this is why it's important when you see these things to choose wisely. Find your brethren, get together with your brethren. Somebody made a comment about waiting for raw land to crash or whatever. Well, I just said to somebody today, I said, a survival camp isn't that tough. You can get 10 acres and, a couple of families start getting together, and next thing you know, you guys are coming up with solutions. It's not that hard if you just put your heart into it. The problem is you got to say goodbye to things you didn't think you'd ever say goodbye to. So this is a big issue. And believe me, people are creatures of habit. They like their mochaccino world. And that's going to mean that many of them will go ahead and compromise, take whatever mark, whatever thing, whatever. I'll take it. Just let me have my mochaccino, right? So this is where we're headed. And like the scripture says, who can make war with the beast, right? Who can make war with this thing, because it keeps defeating everybody. And jobs are getting tougher, right? So this is also something that's coming in. You're seeing more and more difficulty in the job market. I know I'm hearing from brothers and sisters at a level I've never heard before, where it is really, really hard to find decent employment out there. And I wonder if things like this aren't the reason why. So let's take a quick look at this story here before we close up today. McDonald's unveils the first automated location. Social media worries it will cut millions of jobs. Well, it's a good fear, because if they figured out how to do this, if they figured out how to, make the burgers and make things in an automated basis, then they don't need us. McDonald's opened its first automated restaurant with machines handling everything from taking orders to delivering the food, and dividing opinions everywhere. When you step inside the test restaurant concept, you'll notice it's considerably smaller than a traditional McDonald's restaurant, so it's saving them money in terms of space, and you don't have to have people. So this is another huge issue, Saints. And they're getting ready for what they believe is sort of the future. They believe the future is few people and just mechanization. The machine makes my lunch. I can still have, we can get rid of all these people. Okay. Get the thinking, and we can still have all of our treats. And now we don't have to wait in line because all those people are gone. We can just use the machine. Whew. There's some thinking out there that I don't understand, but there it is. And this is real, Saints. This is very real. This automation program, I don't want a burger made by a machine. Do you? One of the reasons why I believe people are part of the process and need to be, is because if they're not there, if there's no human being there, how much corruption can they get away with? How many things can they put in the food and no one will whistle blow? How many times can they pull a fast one and no one will know, right? Like, talk about easy to do. They can flat deceive you, and you wouldn't even know, because there's nobody there to blow a whistle. It's all done by a machine that they trained to just do it. So this is highly dangerous stuff, folks. Highly dangerous stuff. And yet it's treated like it's no big deal. So again, I'm just warning you that this is what is now being discussed and is now become the norm. Now, this last story I'm going to share with you. I sent this video to our sister in Jerusalem. We were talking about this afternoon, and I made a comment in our discussion board online that you're probably going to hear more about cloning and clones in the near future. Again, all secrets need to be revealed, right? Take a look at this, guys. I'm just going to play this up very, let's see how long this is. Oh, it's under a minute, so just watch. Just pay attention to this. I want you to see this for yourselves. This is crazy. It's crazy. Look at that. How crazy is that? Everybody just go ahead and say wow, because that's got me wowed. I'm like, what is going on here? What is happening? What is happening? So I saw this coming. I saw a couple of stories. I'm like, oh, the clone thing's gonna come out now. Yeah, that's what I said. I said, that's just insane. Okay. But is it insane, or is it what's been going on our plane, right? On Earth for a long time. I mean, what is the Nephilim, right? What is the fallen doing if not making fake beings on the earth? That's what the Nephilim are. The Nephilim were the fallen mixing with human beings, so taking half human and half something else, right? And mixing together to make, and they ended up with giants. Genesis 6 talks about this. There's tons of talk about it. There's tons of material out there. And of course, Enoch discusses. I mean, there's just, it's there. It's recorded history. We've got bones we've dug up. I mean, it's not up for discussion that the giants in the land and what have you. But what we didn't really think about is that they had figured out how to just make human-like beings. So what does that do to Messiah's words about preaching the gospel to every creature? Puts it in a different perspective. Also, how many times have we been arguing? What did we find out with the Twitter files? How many times have we all been arguing um, about or arguing with a bot? We didn't even know it. Maybe the person that is, my couple of my friends, I've kind of come on their timeline. And as I'm coming on their timeline, I'm going, is this a bot? Is this a real human being? A real person, or a real man or woman? Gosh, I gotta lose these terms. Is this a real man or woman, or is this a bot, or is this a fake, or is this a plant or a troll? Right. Well, we can certainly understand that online. Like, it's really easy to hide behind a keyboard, right? But they figured out how to hide behind masks. They have figured out how to make that was very lifelike. That was scary lifelike. Okay. And that's what they're showing you. So there's that. You know how that goes. I don't have to tell you about that. Whatever they show you now, they got years ahead that they're not showing you, right? So that makes you wonder. I don't know about you, but it makes me wonder about a lot of things that, a lot of interactions where we think we're interacting with a real man and woman, and we're not. And what would it be? I mean, like you're trying to get somebody, ministering to them, and there's no ministering to them. These people's clockwork was made in a factory. This is beyond wild. Okay. This is why we have certain tests in the scripture, by the way. Um, we have to examine the spirits. And it's becoming more and more difficult. And have you noticed that when you put it to people that they have to say, if they cannot say Yahushua HaMashiach has come in the flesh, that they're not of Elohim, and they can't say it. Can't say it. They can say substitutes. They can say the name of imposters. They can say a name they made up. Well, I believe this, but they can't say Yahushua HaMashiach has come in the flesh. So this is interesting. And so again, guys, I'm just warning you, not all your interactions, especially online, are with real, authentic. There's not really a live man or woman on the other side. There's something else. So if you find yourself in a ongoing battle once or twice, you share it with them. If they don't receive it, I unfriended 300 people in this last month or two, at least 300 people, and I'm probably not done. And so anybody that thought I was running a popularity contest, whoops, I don't care about being popular. I'm just going to tell the truth. I mean, I don't. Here's my thing, folks, and I think all of us need to have the same attitude. No blood on our hands, okay? No blood on my hands. If I find something out, I'm going to come tell you guys. If I find out they lied about something in the scripture, I'm going to come tell you. If I find out they're doing something wicked back here, I'm going to come tell you, because I don't want your blood on my hands. I just don't. It's just not worth it. I'm not in their club. I don't want to hide for none of their things. Okay. We serve the King of all kings, Mashiach Yahushua, and we expect his arrival. Now, we are walking up to Passover. We're inside of 90 days for the new year, and we have a countdown on remnanthouse.org. And so just be aware. The New Year's, we're inside of 90 days of it. So I do believe that what was judged in the fall will be enacted in the spring. So what he made, Yom Kippur is his day of judgment. Day of Atonement is a day of judgment. So if he made some judgments, which I believe he did, and you're going to see those enactments, and it is going to get dicey. And again, there's a lot of rumor about the CBDC program. We didn't get any updates over this last week on that, but I do expect to keep tracking that story as we go. We're going to be tracking any attempts to put a mark on you guys, any attempt to force you into, last minute financial decisions, if you will, that will compromise your eternity. We need to know about that way in advance. We need to see that as far off as we can, and prepare accordingly. Again, that's right. Satan, the devil, is going to be trying overtime to persecute, to hurt people, to break them down. And again, this next year, we will see what will happen. I believe that we are in a very, very difficult theater of time. I'm not saying or suggesting that it's all over this year. I'm just saying this is going to be a difficult year. And so coming up, and we need to be prepared for that. Not everybody's going to have a great time. So just know that and be aware. And if you're getting that in the spirit, if you're getting, man, this is going to be challenging, what have you, then just ask the Ruach HaKodesh how to navigate, and he will show you. If you get dreams and things that he's speaking to you, write them down. Don't take those lightly, because how do you think Messiah was able to escape the judgment of Herod? If you remember, it was Joseph who had a dream that they should go to Egypt. And he woke up, he knew it was from Elohim, packed up the family, and went to Egypt. And as a result, it saved Mashiach's life, because, as you all recall, Herod ordered every child under 2 years old slaughtered out of Bethlehem. And so this is the level to which these spirits want to keep power and want to stay in power, and they will destroy anything that they believe is coming to supplant them or replace them. And guess what? You're all coming to replace. Matthew 25, you will be given 5, 10 cities. You're going to be given authority. You are the rulers. You are the new incoming administration under Mashiach. That's what he's been training you for. He's training you for reigning. And so this is why it's important that we keep aware of what's going on in the earth. Don't put our head in the sand. That's not appropriate. But I also don't think sitting in front of news programs all the time is very healthy either. I've developed a bit of a resistance to their propaganda, so I can go in and out. But I even sometimes will have to go, I'm done with this program, or I'm done. I got everything I needed out of these guys, and get out of there, because they're very powerful, these witches. And this witchcraft is not a joke. And they know how to push the buttons of the human psyche to either make you fearful or to make you take action that otherwise wouldn't make sense. And so just be aware that you are in a psychological theater of war. There are multiple games being played with you economically as well as, in every area. And this is part of the plan. This is what they have. This is their craft. This is what witchcraft does. Witchcraft is about taking power over other people using spells, incantations, and words that give them authority over others. That's the basic tenets of witchcraft. So they're just wanting to have power over you. That's all. They don't care how they get it. They'll break the rules, as you can see. They'll defy the law. There were over 300,000 ballots that were found in the Kerry Lake case that were invalid, yet they just went ahead and went, oh, well, sorry, we didn't find intent. Seriously? They created this level that had to be met that didn't make any sense. So again, this is all being manipulated. You're in, yes, asymmetrical warfare. It is very difficult to see all of the elements that are playing, but understand the overall goal is to keep the remnant from ascension. See, you're the ones that will rule. You're the few, that chosen few that love Elohim, that love Mashiach, that know his name, that were set apart by him. So he had to choose you. Folks, this is why you cannot put revelation into people. Have you tried? Come on. Did you try? Did you try to put some revelation into people? Yeah, I bet you did. And how'd that work? Like throwing pearls before swine, right? Exactly like Messiah said. This is why there comes a point where you just got to unfriend. There comes a point where you just got to say, okay, I'm done. I'm done trying to argue with you. Yep, you go ahead. Go ahead, boo-boo. You run up to the king and tell him all about how that tree was all about him. Go ahead. You go ahead and ignore everybody that's warned you. Go ahead and ignore everybody that's told you the roots of it and whatever. No, just blow them all off. Go ahead. Just do it your way. And we're going to stand at least 50 feet away. We warned you there's no blood on our hands anymore. We done warned you. It's time for us to warn new people. We warned you so many times, we're getting tired of it. Okay? Your job is not to stand there until they change their mind. Did you hear me? Your job is to inform them, right? So if you've informed them, if you minister, you wait and see who comes forward. It's like preaching to a crowd. Only 2 people come forward, the other people go home. Those 2 people, what you were there for. Sometimes you're going to talk to 100 people, or maybe your Facebook, you got 1,000 friends, and maybe one person sends you a note on something you posted, and it was for them. It was for that person. And so don't allow the greater thing. Don't try to run any popularity contests. We're not supposed to be popular. In fact, it's not a good thing if they speak well of you. Just saying. The scripture says, woe to them who speak when the world speaks well of you. So instead, we need to continue to speak the truth in love. And you're speaking the truth when you get a crowd ready to lynch you, man. They like their Diana of the Ephesians, if you know what I mean, right? So you start telling them they got to let go of Diana. Okay. You go to Ephesus and say Diana is a witch. Diana is a moon goddess. Y'all need to let that go. They'll be shouting in the streets, Diana, 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 right? And it was like all day. They said in the scripture, it said all day they were shouting. Paul couldn't preach there because he riled them up by telling them the truth, which brings me to another point. Quit expecting apostles to be super nice. Okay. Messengers of the king are not interested in being nice. They're going to inform you of a message. The same is true really of all the fivefold. We have a job to do and we have to answer to the king. We don't have to answer to people. The authentic are afraid of the king. That's how you know they're authentic. The fear of him is in them. They tremble at the notion of not telling you the truth. Okay, they tremble at the notion of not revealing things to you because they know they have to go check in. That's the real fivefold. That's what you're looking for. You don't want these people that are greedy dogs who are just looking to stuff their faces. They saw the authentic and wanted. They're Simon the sorcerers over here. They all just want the benefits of ministry without actually doing the work that he's called us to do. So be wise as serpent, gentle as doves. We want to be gentle, but at the same time, we cannot compromise the truth. And so let me encourage those of you that are not only sharing news and things that are happening, but are also sharing what you're discovering as you're walking, as you're getting closer to Him. Don't be afraid. Don't be bashful. Don't be a coward. Be courageous. Go down blazing. Okay. Be courageous. Be like Stephen. Be preaching to them as they throw them rocks. Amen and amen. So if they're going to stone you, go out in a blaze of glory, man. Go out preaching that gospel. Go out telling them the truth. Go out telling them that as they're throwing you out of whatever, you be telling them the truth. Okay. And do it in love, but don't lie to people. Don't do anything that's politically correct just for popularity, just to make peace. No, that's how we ended up here. That's how come this happened. That's how come people believe so many lies, is because they weren't the courageous to just tell them the truth. And so thank you to every one of you who have the courage, who have found the temerity of character by the Ruach to go tell the truth to people. And it's not easy. You've got a lot of Pharisees out there, a lot of people that want to, well, they're trying to build their own thing and build their own, I don't know. It's wild. I'm not necessarily, and I want to finish on this point, um, because I've heard people make comments about being a member of Remnant House or whatever. I don't have to be a member of Remnant House to get saved. No, you don't. In fact, Remnant House is here to make sure you get saved, regardless of whether you join Remnant House or not. Our assignment as a house is just to get you into the kingdom. Okay. The fact that you join a mission that's ongoing and get on board with that mission and vision of a house is the next step. But that's not the door of the kingdom. The door of the kingdom is Messiah, Yahusha, and the blood of the Lamb and water baptism, right? You got to follow the scripture and come into the kingdom. When you get in the kingdom, what you think He's going to do with you? He's going to give you a job. He's going to give you a place. He's going to put you somewhere. So that's what we're looking for after you've been saved. It's not the door to get saved. You've been saved. You find Messiah. You walking in His ways, right? You're coming in, and you start praying. Where do I belong? Where do you want me to be? Where do you want to put me? And He puts you in a house. He puts you over here with this group or that group or this group. Why? Because they need your gift. Because your gift is necessary. It's a place where you can be profitable. You can bring forth fruit that remains. You can answer Him in Matthew 25 when He says, "What'd you do with what I gave you?" If people are just sitting at home and are not part of any fold, not part of any work, not part of any mission, then you're decommissioned. You're not in a mission, right? So what do we do with a boat that's decommissioned? It just sits in dry dock. But you're supposed to be part of a mission. You're supposed to be part of the work of the gospel of the kingdom. And if you're not in a particular place, wherever you are, you're not part of a mission, then I suggest that you cry out to Him and ask Him to find a place for you. We've got people all over the earth as part of Remnant House. So it's a unique house in that you can join from anywhere and participate, not just join and sit, but participate, help us, minister to other people, operate in connectivity in other areas. We continue to find ways to bridge the gaps of space. Some of my dearest friends are 2 states over, but we still figure out how to make that work, right? So, um, and none of us know what we're doing. None of us have been here before. I don't care what your calling is. Nobody's been to where we're headed before. We have to continue to follow Him. We have to continue to believe Elohim to give us insight and understanding as we walk forward. So I just want to encourage everybody and thank you so much for joining us this evening. We've gone a little long, so I'm going to end here. Thank you so much for being a part of this broadcast. May Yahuwah bless each and every one of you. We'll see you again next time.